Final week, last three games, and it's kind of a unique scheduling situation in terms of first time we've seen Indiana. Was really glad to kind of get back in the routine after a long layoff against Nebraska, and then get right back on the road. I thought, obviously, stating the obvious, Allen going 6 of 8 from the three was nice to see. We get to see that often in practice. And then I thought that Andres Felice, quietly with his passing, 7 assists, was tremendous. DeMonte with his passing, made some great, just simple basketball plays that weren't scripted out of offense, that were just reads, and it was nice to be able to make some of those plays. And then I thought in the first half defensively, we were really sharp. One of the big keys was taking the 3-point line away from them. We held them to 5, and we were much better at doing that than we were the first game. So on to Indiana, one of the outstanding freshmen in our league, in Jackson Davis, excuse me. He's had a phenomenal year. Fennessy at the point is an outstanding lead guard. They've got a kind of a elite scorer in Green off the bench that can really get going from 3. And then Joey Brunk inside has been he's really skilled, can score with either hand. So it's a big Indiana team. They're physical. Archie does a great job defensively. This team is as solid defensively as any team in the league. So it should be a really physical, good Big Ten basketball game.
Brad, do you and your team remember the game against Indiana here last year?
Yeah, I mean the veterans do. Kofi has no idea what's going on, but we're so different defensively now that there's not a lot of similarities from our standpoint in that.
They're number 1 in the league in free throw rate, and Trace Jackson's, I think, 3rd overall. So what do they do to get to the line? I know you mentioned they're physical.
Yeah, they're sneaky. You don't see them until you kind of look at the end of the game and you go, gosh darn, they got the line a lot. They're sneaky good in transition. They put a lot of pressure. Fennessy does a great job. I think that Hunter, when he comes in, I think you see Green, I think you see Durham, all those guys attack in transition. You've got to get that contained. They draw fouls that way. They're aggressive in their post-ups. Trace is a guy that has a very gifted skill set because he loves to play from the top of the key and drive it in that area. He spins a lot when he's in the paint, so he draws a lot of fouls. And then his body movements are towards the front of the rim, so he's going through people. And they're it's been an effective tool for them is getting to the foul line.
I'm not sure how much maybe Kofi and Trace will match up against each other because they play Brunk a lot, together with Trace. But just to have maybe two of the, arguably the top 2 freshmen in the Big Ten in this late season matchup, is that just, what do you feel like maybe that could bring on?
Yeah, they're probably, neither one of them are probably freshmen anymore in terms of experience. This late in the year, they've all played, 27, 28, 29 games, whatever the number is, and so there's some but yeah, they know each other from youth basketball and growing up, yeah, it's an exciting matchup, and we'll see how much they guard each other. I have no idea at this point, but they're two young guys who've come in and impacted this league in big ways, and there's no question they're not just two of the outstanding freshmen in this league, but in the country.
Brad, we've seen Io really develop from last year to this year, that mid-range pull-up. How important is that to his game? And you guys are so into analytics, and that's universally not the best shot, but he makes it a really good shot.
Well, it's one of the reasons he's gotten really good at it. He's pretty cerebral. He's gotten smart. He understands what everybody lives and dies by threes and layups, and that's a shot that you often get as a mid-range pull-up, and he's got great size. He's got the ability to stop on a dime. He's put in a ton of time working on it, and that's become his long floater is instead of that, it's just a pull-up jump shot, and he's been great with it, and was great with it at Northwestern the other night, and continues to put pressure on the defense with his pull-ups.
What does that say about him coming out of high school? The knock was the three-point shot. He shot it pretty well last year from three, and in the offseason it was the mid-range game, shooting off the dribble, and now that's a big strength for him, one of the best out there.
Yeah, I think the one thing that people should never, or I guess quit underestimating Io, is that he has weaknesses. If he's got a weakness, he's going to work on it. He's been able to shore up really everything in his game, from three-point shooting, and that was the big rap coming out of high school, to he's a great layup maker, and that's all he shoots and had to shoot in high school, to now let's put a little variety in your game with mid-range pull-ups, going right, going left, off the bounce, off a ball screen. Those are all things that he's worked extremely hard on to master and to get better at. So, there's nothing. People keep telling Io he can't do something. He goes out and proves them wrong, and that's kind of that young man's mentality.
Kofi mentioned the other night about playing AAU with Allen and playing against him in high school. I was wondering what your recruiting process is when you go to look at guys, and if you're looking at, could these guys play together? What's the chemistry type thing? How's he going to feel comfortable with maybe both? How are we going to feel comfortable with both of these guys? How does that go into your mindset when you go out and look at a kid?
Yeah, it's more about character than it is any of that. I think that when you look at the individual character piece and you find out, what a good guy Kofi is, or what a good kid Allen is, or it just you feel really comfortable in that. I think you're sensitive to certain things that may or may not be relevant, but I think when you dive in individually to the character piece of each kid, and that's the most important piece for us.
Do you have an opinion on the evolution of Justin Smith as a defensive stopper?
Yeah, he's so athletic that he can guard multiple positions. He plays multiple positions. He's 6'6", 6'7". He's got a great body, and he's a guy that I think they feel very confident in, that he can guard anybody from point guards to centers, and that's nice versatility to have, and he's done that very well for him.
Kind of just a quirk in the schedule where you've had first games against Nebraska, Indiana coming up, Ohio State coming up. Is that maybe a good thing, where there's maybe no preconceived notion heading into the game because you don't have this memory of the earlier one? Or I'm not sure how you kind of view that.
Yeah, it's a little unique in just the standpoint that a lot of times you're seeing a team for a second time once you get into February or March, and there is some familiarity. Now it's new, so guys have to really, really be dialed into scouting report and personnel, and it is what it is. I don't try to make too much out of it. It's the next game on the schedule, and we're gonna prepare for them just the way we have. And we've told our guys, hey, it's the first time we've seen them, so let's be dialed in, and let's know what tendencies are, and you don't have that game time experience that you had from the first time playing them.
Obviously, tomorrow's the first day of March. You're no stranger to the NCAA tournament, having been there 4 times. What similarities or attributes do you compare to some of your past teams that made the NCAA tournament to this one right here?
Well, I think the obvious is we keep wanting to get better. We've always taken great pride in playing, being an everyday guy, getting better every day, never staying status quo, and I think we saw that. We saw the evolution of in Allen. We saw Kofi hit just a little bit of a wall, so to speak. Now, he's been phenomenal again. Guys are staying dialed in. Our practices have been really, really positive. There hasn't been any down days in terms of practice. So, I think that's been the one consistent thing is in all those other 4 teams was we continued to work and get better, and they got stronger in the weight room. They kept training. We kept pushing. And, it gets to, when you get to March, it's, in a lot of cases it's lose and go home. So, it's kind of, let it all out and let's go have fun and try to keep it light in terms of that and having fun and understand the importance of each day of trying to get better.
This Illinois-Indiana rivalry has been pretty heated in the past. Where do you think it sits right now?
Well, I think, it's 2 of the best programs in the history of college basketball. And so there's always going to be tremendous history. There's always going to be a moment or two. There's going to be you've got great coaches that have been at both places. Both have been to Final Fours. Both have extremely passionate fan bases. So that makes it fun. And I think I think this is as Archie and I keep growing and evolving, I think it's going to continue to be one of the best rivalries in college basketball.
You mentioned the wall Kofi hit. What do you think was behind that, and how did you get him back on track?
I think competition, had something to do with it. I think that there's an 18-year-old kid, freshman. I think they all have it at some point. It can be for a couple games, can be whatever it is. I think it was they get tired of practice, and I think it's just finding a way to re-energize and get focused, and he's done that very, very well.
It's sort of a follow-up to that. How much maybe has just simply playing in the Big Ten helped Kofi's development? Because there's another really good big across the court every single night.
It's a lot. There's no doubt. I mean, you can put a lot of players around the country in a lot of leagues, and they don't have the size and the difference and the demands that it takes to be a big in this league. And I don't care whether you're Harms at 7'3", it can step out and shoot a 3, or you're Stick Smith, who can lead the league in 3-point shooting, and or Luka Garza, who's arguably the best player in the country right now, and he's got all sorts of weapons. So it's something different every single night, different size, different athleticism. The maturation for him as a freshman to handle all that has been quite remarkable.
Where do you think Kofi is with just developing his offensive package, maybe developing that signature move you mentioned maybe like a month ago or so?
Yeah, work in progress. It's still a work in progress. I think that, we saw him the other night do some things that he hasn't typically done, which is just jump up and dunk balls with 2 hands. And, before he was maybe, just trying to drop those in. And it's continually working on his jump hooks, right hand, left hand. We do hundreds of those every day. So it's, and I think, again, that's why we often have the cliche, the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores. Part of that is because they have a full off season, to work on those things. And but he works every day at it. So he's growing in that area.
Anything else while we got it, Coach?
Thank you. See you tomorrow.